Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment where we discuss the LeBron James courtside encounter, uh, more fan misconduct fun. So, in the third segment, we're going to be talking about Soul Train and the fact that it's been around for 50 years. Um, I was going to reference the article right here. There we go. From Reuters, Don Cornelius was the creator of the iconic television show Soul Train. Um, he launched Soul Train as a live TV dance and music show in Chicago in 1970. It was one of the first TV shows to feature blacks prominently and syndicated nationally from 1971 to 2006. Jason, I wanted to bring up Soul Train because while it's definitely a big deal locally because, Don Cornelius is from Chicago. Um, but for me, it was a big deal culturally, man. I mean, it was on it did for American culture what I consider basically American Bandstand did for American culture. Okay. And I think about some of the artists that we saw for the first time um on Soul Train. The Jackson Five, Marvin Gaye, James Brown, Elton John, David Bowie, Paul Abdul. And so you think about all the tastemakers for culture, for music, um, and art. And I think about how a lot of this stuff originated on Soul Train. So, what are your thoughts as Soul Train, uh, you know, turns a page and is now at 50 years?
So I will say that for those who happen to may be unfamiliar with Soul Train, um, probably the most comparable show to it is probably American Bandstand. And again, if you don't know what Soul Train is, hopefully you might know what that is. But similar type show, American Bandstand was 1952, 1989, hosted by Dick Clark for all those years except for four. Um, so Soul Train definitely outlasted uh, that. For me, Soul Train goes back to I can't even recall how old I was, but I know in Chicago, if I recall correctly, it came on Saturday mornings. Usually came on around 10 or 11 a.m. Um, so it's kind of funny. I would sit back and watch my Saturday morning cartoons that come on kind of earlier in the morning, and now in the morning with watching Soul Train. And not that I would do a whole lot of dance or anything in the living room or the basement rather, but I'll watch for the musical performances depending on who they had on. And then I would always watch the Soul Train line for for some of the the booty shaking that would go on. So I'll admit that, but I agree with you that some of the influence from Soul Train definitely is important. And one thing that I was just thinking about right now as you were talking is the Soul Train line. Part of the show where people, there'll be a line of two people on both sides. Everybody will take their turns going, dance from one end of the line to the other. And how many times have we seen movies that depict that at the end of Hitch? They do that. They do something similar to that. Also, we go to weddings. They always want to. Well, at least every wedding I go to, they always do something similar to that. Um, so definitely the Soul Train influence is there. Um, but yeah, definitely. I didn't realize Don Cornelius was from Chicago, but that now I'm thinking about the show, kind of actually makes a whole lot of sense. Um, Terrence, I have a question? Does the show still come on? Actually, like the actual Soul Train show?
I'm not sure. You know, I I don't typically watch a lot of TV on the weekends. I'll be honest. It's unless it's sports related, I do not watch a lot of TV on the weekends. So to your point, yeah, I remember growing up and watching it on Saturday, but I couldn't even tell you if it comes on now. Still,
Actually, you know what? Now I think about it, no, it actually doesn't. Remember, they had like um, an ending. And actually, now looking it up now, it actually ended for like actual episodes in March 2006. But they still have the Soul Train Music Awards, so that's kind of how the show is still living on. Actually, they just had those awards, I believe, a couple days ago. So yeah, so the show still lives on in that regard, having the award show named after it. But the actual show itself has been over for doesn't seem like it 15 years, almost 16. Um, so no, it doesn't come on anymore. But still, the fact they have the award show every year, which is on BET every year, I think helps the legacy live on. Um, but yeah, to me, and there's a lot of other shows that are about like musical performance shows, like there was always MTV Unplugged, Saturday Night Live to a small degree, a smaller degree. But to me, Soul Train was it. You know, because obviously they had the show with people dancing on it, which you didn't necessarily see with Unplugged. Saturday Night Live was more about comedy. Really, just had the two performances every show. So really, it was just them, maybe Solid Gold and American Bandstand, really. And but I think one thing that's important is with the show starting in 1971. Now, obviously, I wasn't alive back then, and neither were you. But I had to imagine, also according to stuff I read, there was very few black people actually shown on TV that weren't athletes. So to have a show to where you had, predominantly black, obviously a black host and predominantly black dancers and performers, again, especially in 1971, that also kind of built that, importance for the show and also history making for the show. And the fact that it, lasted for as long as it did, as far as, it's, airing, I think definitely stands out. Um, Question for you, Terrence. Why do you think it is there's not really any shows like that anymore?
um,
Because obviously
you
people
mean
still like music and still like dancing. Why is there not really any musical shows like that to where people will still go perform, people will still be in studio dancing to the music and stuff like that? Why do you think there's no show like that anymore?
I think part of the reason that there aren't shows like that anymore is number one, they're probably watching some shit like that on YouTube and TikTok. The reality is our attention spans have been so truncated, frankly, that we just don't have the palate for it anymore, which would make it and yet another reason that it's good to curate the art in an award show because otherwise, you know, we and not to get off topic because I was thinking about Adele and the fact that she said, "No, y'all gotta play my shit from front to back. Don't no skips, dog." On Spotify, and it made me think about the fact that she wanted it to be kind of appreciated from a certain angle. Um, and for me, Soul Train was about appreciating the culture from a certain angle, and not, you know, and not. And when I say that a certain angle, I'm talking about the fact that you saw black people not suffering, right? So,
Having fun.
right, and so this is one of your critiques about black media is that every time you see a show or a movie getting some Oscar pub, it's about, oh, so and so is in prison or so and so is in jail or it's a slavery movie. Well, Soul Train was literally like, these are black people having a good time. The end. Either get down with that or go somewhere else.
And you know what? And maybe that's why part of the reason why it lasted as long as it did, Um and and again, that's part of why I watched it, Um because I can't really remember how old I was when I started watching it. I just know we were living back in Cal Park still. I'm pretty sure I wasn't in high school, so I feel like I was like in that middle school area, sixth, seventh, eighth grade. Back when watching women dance was like really, grown women dance. Hey, keeping it real. I'm keeping it real here, okay? That's why I started watching Soul Train. Now I kept watching it for obviously the music and but seriously though, even back then, whether I was in high school or not, or in middle school, there wasn't a whole lot of black representation back then anyway. I'm trying to think of way back when, because we were in middle school, what, like 91 through 93, right? So, wow, that's right. So 91 through 93, around that time for 91 through 94. So, how many shows were on TV back then? Obviously, off the top of our heads, how many shows were around back then that were really good when it comes to positive black representation? Was Fresh Prince of Bel? I think Fresh Prince was around like in its early days, maybe at some time during that. Family Matters, you know, I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting, but other than that, how many shows out there were there like that? You know, that actually lasted long enough to be noteworthy. Like I remember at some point, remember the show Rock? That was a good show,
Oh,
but that lasted like 2 seasons. So our shows sometimes had the reputation of not lasting very long. I think Martin got famous at some point, maybe after that. Um, but definitely the early '90s. I don't recall that many black shows that lasted that long, other than the two I just mentioned. So
Rock lasted 3 seasons, by the way.
yeah, exactly. By the way, my mom always used to say that when she used to watch Rock, he reminded her of you.
Oh, Charles S. Dutton. Yeah, I get
Yes.
that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I think I remember when she first told me that. I think I remember telling her that he probably gets that a lot because back then y'all had the same head and everything going on. So to figure out, point that out there.
No, I appreciate it.
Hi,
Thank
mom.
you.
Hi, mom.
Hi, Jason's mom. Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely getting a lot of Charles S. Dutton doppelganger references. And if not that, Tony Gwynn, Hall of Famer. Tony Gwynn, by the way.
I feel like we could make a whole other episode or sub segment about who people say we look alike because I've heard some that make no sense at all.
Yeah. Let
Yeah,
me compare my list and we'll compare your list and then we'll go from there.
folks, we just are determined a segment for episode 34. So tune in for that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Soul Train was a lot of unadulterated um just black joy. And what I enjoy about the show is that the show was so self-assured that like it was it was unequivocally black, but it wasn't trying to be something that it wasn't. It wasn't trying to uh it wasn't trying to be something that it wasn't. I mean, it was just existing and acknowledging, listen, we this you see these dances, you see MJ over here doing the robot. Yeah, all of America's going to be doing that in about a month. You're welcome.
Real quick, because I was very curious. Just some of the, I'll say, positive black shows that actually were going on while that time frame, 91 through 94. Fresh Prince, Martin, Cosby Show, and A Different World, and Family Matters. So we actually have 5 solid shows. Um, yeah, the obviously Cosby Show and A Different World were kind of at the end of their runs during that time frame. Um, but there were some, but overall, again, not many. But those ones I had, they're definitely positive. Either comedic, showing people having fun, or they took on serious topics as well. So definitely that's good. But back in 1971, I'm sure it's probably even less than that. So, um, but yeah, but Soul Train definitely was a different vibe. It wasn't situation comedy. It wasn't a prison movie. It wasn't a slave movie. Like you said, it was black folks having a good time. and that's it. Like I say, in the story. If you didn't like black music, you probably wasn't watching it. Oh well, but that's what the show is about, and that's what made it matter. You know, a show that featured, I'll say, wasn't just for us, but a show that featured us, music by us, and just us having fun.
Here, here. All right. That concludes segment 3 on the 50th anniversary of Soul Train. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show.